I wanted an opinion about how ZHOU's original rework landed. He told me that he believed it was a success because it flattened his win rate across all skill levels, but tanked his play rate because it alienated a majority of his original player base. So here's the thing about ZHOU's original rework. It was a success. With the goals that Justin was given, it was a massive success. The goals for the ZHOU rework were to flatten his play rate across, was to flatten his win rate across skill levels, make him better for high skilled players, make him be less one note, have more skill expression, all those things. Those goals, the rework succeeded at with flying colors. The problem is in hindsight, we probably shouldn't have set those goals, because those goals ended up being fairly counter to what at the time the majority of his players actually were enjoying. And so we ended up succeeding at our goals at the expense of tanking the play rate of, at the time, one of League of Legends' more popular champions. And so that's, I think, the challenge with the ZHOU rework, is it was very successful at doing what it was trying to do, but unfortunately we maybe shouldn't have been trying to do that. An example of this, actually, in action afterwards, is after this happened, a year or two after, we were going to rework Malphite with similar goals, make Malphite a way more skill expressive character with a lot of different stuff going on, instead of just straightforward R guy. Very similar to the ZHOU rework. We were we're going to make him, more skill expressive and have more variance and ups and downs and things like that. It was that was the plan for the Malphite rework, and we were going to do things like that. And then some design folks, some product folks were hey, but did you know that Malphite is one of the most popular tanks in the game, and there's probably a reason people like him, and it probably has something to do with him being very, very straightforward to play and not having all these skill expression things, and are we doing something, is it dangerous, right? And so it's kind of a thing where it's yes, we could rework simple, straightforward characters to have more skill expression and be better at high MMRs and things like that. But you have to be very, very, very careful that it doesn't come at the cost of their player base if you think that player base is important to maintain. Some characters we will rework and we'll say, hey, we're okay moving away from that player base. But sometimes, especially in regards to very, very popular characters, you really want to be careful about whether or not you're moving away from something that the people who currently play it really like. You could get to the point where low MMR players don't feel functional on it anymore and feel like they can't succeed on it, and then low MMR players will move on to something else. And so that's a risk, and this is why I'm always kind of espousing on this stream that, hey, it is not always important that every champion is viable in every MMR, because if certain champions were balanced to truly, say, be the best pro picks they could be, it could very easily come at the cost of having to make them significantly worse off for their, lower MMR players. Why can KAYLE not get a buff? KAYLE could get a buff. It just depends on what the team prioritizes to buff or nerf. There's only so many characters you can buff or nerf at any given time. And I think one of the things that KAYLE has potentially an issue with over the years is she tends to be very, very weak at win rates that look fine for everybody else. So, if a character like, say, ZHOU was at 50% win rate, he'd be chilling. He'd be great. He'd probably even be a little strong, right? But KAYLE's a character who tends to be very, very weak at 50% win rate, but it is hard to justify buffing a 50% win rate champion when there might be other characters that are too strong or too weak that look a lot more out of line, a really, really high win rate champ or a character who's really, really low win rate. And so that's one of the complexities about tuning KAYLE, is she tends to look fine when she's not in terms of win rate. And there's only so many characters you can buff or nerf in any given patch. There's only so much time, right? And so my opinion is that KAYLE probably is weak. That's my personal opinion, but that's just me. I'm on vacation, I don't do things. And there's probably a lot of other characters that might be weak right now. And there's probably a lot of other characters that might be strong right now. And so, the team has things to do. They got a lot of stuff that they could work on. Why do some burst bruisers like Pantheon or RENEKTON get armor pen while others like Riven and Aatrox don't? Armor pen is often necessary for bruisers to like be able to function as characters, and so many bruisers have it on their kits, and then to like basically make it so they're not just forced to like instantly one-shot squishies and do nothing else. Riven and Aatrox are a bit more versatile than Pantheon, and in Renekton's case, his armor pen is fairly conditional. And so one of the things you need is that if you can't take targets, like you have no ability to take targets, like in the case of like say Darius, it becomes a lot more important that like you can actually interact with the target in front of you without having to uniquely itemize for them. Whereas Riven and Aatrox are fairly mobile champions, and so they tend to be able to take more targets that they want. And it's also things like Aatrox has healing and Riven has her shield and stuff, so they do have other tools. But the general idea behind giving bruisers that have armor pen on them, armor pen, is the fact that they will often be in the middle of the enemy team, not always able to choose the targets they want to choose. And in those situations, if they need to be, they sometimes need that extra armor pen to be functional champions. Armor pen, if it's a shred, also puts power into team utility. Divers having shreds means the targets they focus also get focused by their team. I would love to do game design professionally, so I wanted to ask if you could share some advice for people new to the market. Make games. That's the number one advice I always have, is make some games. Make some mods. Go make something in Roblox. Go make something in Fortnite. There's a lot of places you can make games, and that's the best place to start, is to make games and learn that way. The other one I would ask if you're new to the market is make friends in gaming. So a lot of people are always talking about blah, 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 everything is merit-based in life. No. Life is about connections. Life is about human connection. And so one of the best ways you can get a job or get experience or get learning in any field you want to, it's not just games, this applies to many, many other fields as well, is to go meet people in that field and befriend them and talk to them and interact with them. I have a number of coworkers who, the way they eventually got into Riot is they started out like, you know, having a passion about games, maybe as an artist or a player or things like that, and they started out going to conventions and just meeting devs and talking to devs and befriending some devs. You know, some of the devs they would just chat with, some of the friends they legit be friends with, right? And like once you are in that community of people like doing these things you are interested in doing, that is going to help you get good at that thing, understand what you need to do to get good at that thing, get a job at that thing, stuff like that. And so I would definitely recommend talk to the people that do the thing that you have interest in. That can be, I think, really, really helpful.